The United Nations Security Council has listed Pakistan-based terrorist Abdul Rehman Makki as a global terrorist. The listing comes after China last year put on India's bid to name the Laskar-e-Taiba leader a global terrorist. Earlier, China had stalled India's bid to list Masood Azhar as a global terrorist at least 4 times in the last 10 years. The United Nations had finally designated Masood as a global terrorist in 2019, and the latest listing comes after a gap of 3 years and 8 months. China has finally removed its hold on the listing of the Pakistani-based terrorist. Reports suggest that China may have come under international pressure to list Makki as a global terrorist. India and the United States of America have already listed Makki as a terrorist under their domestic laws. Makki has been involved in raising funds, recruiting and radicalizing youth to violence, and also planning attacks in India, especially in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Makki is also the deputy chief of the Laskar-e-Taiba and leads the political affairs department of the terrorist group. He is the brother-in-law of Hafiz Saeed, the founder of Laskar-e-Taiba. Makki also served as the head of LET's foreign relations department. The Pakistani government had arrested Makki in 2019, after which he was convicted in 2020 on 1 count of terrorism financing and was sentenced to prison. However, despite these actions, the terror group Laskar-e-Taiba remains active in Pakistan and continues to disturb peace and stability in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. We are now being joined by Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, who is a former Indian diplomat and has worked for the Indian Foreign Service for over 3 decades. Ambassador Ashok writes and also speaks on issues relating to international relations and Indian foreign policy. Ambassador, welcome to WION.
Thank you very much, Eric. Delighted to be here.
What are the repercussions to a country, in this case Pakistan, and a group like Laskar-e-Taiba, when an individual is listed by the United Nations as a global terrorist?
I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, what India has stated a number of times, it is become an epicenter of terrorism. A large majority of terrorists which are designated under the UNSC resolution 1267, they come from Pakistan. More than 126 terrorists come from Pakistan, and also a large number of terrorist organizations. So I think Pakistan is used to having its people, its terrorists listed by the UN Security Council. So I don't think it is going to have much of an impact in terms of the support that Pakistan provides to terrorists and to terrorism. I think what could force Pakistan to change its track a little bit, at least for some time, is because of the problems that it is facing, whether it is in terms of the economic problems. There are, all the consumer items or the daily use items, whether it is energy, whether it is fuel, all these have become extremely expensive. There is no, as far as the foreign exchange reserves are concerned, they are also going down. So maybe that could have an impact on Pakistan to change its track on terrorism. But I think this one action of designation of an individual, I don't think it is going to have much of an influence on its policies.
Ambassador, some say that this will have an impact on the groups like Laskar-e-Taiba being funded by this individual.
Well, I think we'll have to really wait and see. As you had mentioned yourself, in 2019, we had the Jaish chief Masood Azhar also getting listed. Did we see much of an impact as far as the support that was provided to the terrorist groups, either by Jaish or by Pakistan Army or Pakistan ISI? I think that was a very limited impact. What is really going to, as far as India is concerned and all the attacks taking place against India, we have to make sure that any terrorist actions that are coming from Pakistan, that they are responded to with strong action. We saw in 2016, after the Uri attacks, we had the surgical strikes. After the Pulwama attacks in February 2019, we had the Balakot strikes. So I think this is the sort of message that will go to Pakistan and will restrain them from funding and supporting terrorist actions. And also what India has been doing, the role it has been playing, along with its partners like the United States, like France, Britain, etc., on the international stage in terms of pushing back this nexus of support to terrorism, both between Pakistan and China. Eric.
Ambassador, let's talk about another aspect here. China was isolated in the United Nations Security Council over Makki as India made it clear that it would continue raising the listing of the Laskar terrorists and the role played by China in providing cover to Pakistan-based groups till its objective was, achieved. Why did China put a technical hold on listing Makki earlier?
I think in June 2022, last year, when the proposal came first to the UN Security Council committee, and at that time, I think on all issues, China has been putting some sort of a technical hold. You mentioned yourself that as far as Masood Azhar is concerned, for 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, we had the technical hold by China. Again, in 2019, China found itself isolated. And I think the members of the UN Security Council even threatened to take the case to the full body of the UN Security Council. And that is when China relented on this. But as far as right now it is concerned, the case is concerned, it is clear that China would go to any length, China would do anything possible to help, its so-called iron brother, Pakistan, in terms of the support to terrorists in any way by putting technical holds. But right now, I feel that China has been brought under immense international pressure. And also, I think equally, if not more importantly, I feel that it is the domestic problems that China is facing. You mentioned yourself in the news report that it is the lowest GDP growth of 3% that China has registered over 40 years. Also, we find that its population is declining. There are problems as far as the zero COVID policy in terms of the health issues, in terms of the economic issues. So it is China is facing all these problems domestically. Right. So maybe it wants to send out a message that it is tamping down on its aggressive approach and aggressive policy as far as global issues are concerned.
Ambassador Ashok, and this is very quickly, in your view, how do you see the fight against terrorism in the Indo-Pacific region? Are gains being made or more needs to be done?
Of course, it needs to continue. This is definitely a gain because these are small steps which are going to lead us to our objective. But number one, the efforts need to continue. Number two, it needs to be done in a united manner, and all opposition to these joint terrorist, counter-terrorist actions. And India has been in the forefront, whether it is in terms of fighting against money laundering or providing money to terror financing, etc. So I think all countries need to work together. And this process has started, but needs to be continued with equal and greater vigor. Eric.
All right, we'll have to end this discussion here. I've been talking to a former Indian diplomat. His name is Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar. Ashok, thank you very much for talking to WION today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.